The year was 1950, and these were the people in the news. Harry S. Truman was President of the United States. Sir Winston Churchill was Time magazine's Man of the Year. Eleanor Roosevelt chaired the UN Commission on Human Rights. The Duke and Duchess of Windsor toured the world as international celebrities. Nehru was serving as the first Prime Minister of India. Juan and Eva Perón were President and First Lady of Argentina. In the local news on the Central Coast of California, Luis Leonard Silva of Arroyo Grande and Georgina Lorraine Anachini of Oceano, sweethearts at Arroyo Grande High School, were married on January 1, 1950, at the Old Mission Church in San Luis Obispo, California. In their world, life was good. However, only 6 months later, Korea became a battleground, and soon the United States was at war.
The Korean War lasted from June 25, 1950 to July 27, 1953. It was the first conflict to involve the United Nations. 17 countries fought in the Korean War, including the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, South Africa, and the Philippines. They fought alongside the United States to keep Communist China and North Korea from conquering South Korea. In 1951, Lou Silva of San Luis Obispo was shipped to an outpost in Korea in an area called the Iron Triangle near the Kumwa Valley, where he lived in foxholes and risked his life in one of the most dangerous areas of combat. At home, his young wife Jeannie wrote letters to him daily and gave birth to their first child while praying every day that her husband would come home safely. The Silvas are like grandparents to me, and I love them very much. I'm proud to be able to tell their war story and their love story. In 1950, Lou Silva was serving in the National Guard at Camp San Luis Obispo. 1 month after the Korean War began, his troop, the 161st Ordnance Company, was activated into full-time service. He took his basic training at Camp Cook, which is now called Vandenberg Air Force Base. Eventually, he was shipped to Korea. Lou was in the 5th Regimental Combat Team, 24th Infantry Division.
Life in combat was terrible. Hard. Well, you didn't know whether you were going to get up the next morning. You didn't know if you were going to get shot or get overrun, or you didn't know what was going to happen. And we were in front of the front lines most of the time. We was called an outpost unit. When I was on the outposts, I lived in a hole in the ground. I slept 2 on and 2 off. 2 hours of sleep and 2 hours awake, 24/7.
I didn't know how close he came to dying. And he didn't talk about this for many years after he was home.
When I left San Luis Obispo Railroad Station, my wife was standing there pregnant, and I didn't know whether I was going to come back and see her and the baby, and that was a really deep feeling I had, because I didn't know what was going to happen to us.
That was very hard, because I never knew if I'd see him again. I was 6 months pregnant. I was terribly frightened. Yeah, I wrote to him every day, sometimes twice a day, because he was the love of my life.
The morale booster I mostly liked was my wife writing to me every day. I got letters all the time. In fact, one time we had a mail call, and we had to go down below the hill there to receive our mail, and there was about 20 letters, and I got them all, and the guys all got mad at me and called me a mail hog.
So I just was looking forward to my child being born, and didn't know when he would be back, but just prayed that he would be safe and he would come back to us.
My daughter was born December the 19th, just before Christmas, in '51. And it was really, I got a telegram, which I still have, from my wife, saying that 6 pounds, 15 ounce daughter. And everybody in my unit was happy and congratulated me, and that was a good part about it. But I was very lonely.
The first time I'd ever been alone in my life was when he left. So that was very difficult for us.
The Korean War has often been referred to as the Forgotten War. However, more than 58,000 American and UN troops were killed, and thousands more were declared missing in action.
I thought the people back home didn't care about us. You know, they're just like the Vietnam War. People didn't care.
I became a little bitter that people had not realized what was going on during the war. And that's why, one reason why I have so much feeling about the families and the boys that are fighting in this war in Afghanistan. They're going through what my husband and I went through. We know what war is, and war is hell.
We went to this outpost, we dug in. I was only in the unit about 4 or 5 days, and we dug in that night and pulled 2 on and 2 off 24/7 in our foxholes. And that night, I was supposed to wear my steel helmet, but the wind was blowing so bad I couldn't hear anything, so I took my helmet off. That later in time saved my life. My guards in the back fell asleep, and the enemy squad came through the back and entered our platoon. And this one Chinese soldier walked right up to me and looked at me. If I'd have had my steel helmet on, he probably would have shot me and killed me. But he thought I was a Chinese because I had a pile cap on like they have. And my friend Duckett, who was my comrade in arms next to me, pulled up and shot him. And he fell dead in front of me, and then all heck started firing around. We killed 7 or 8 Chinese in that patrol that night. And this guy that fell right in front of me was a sergeant. He was in charge of the patrol. We searched him for papers and so forth to get information, and the rest of them we took off and they buried him. The next night they came again in force, and they attacked us again, but we held them off. And we killed several more that night.
In 1995, a Korean War memorial was dedicated in Washington, D.C. In it, there's a plaque that reads, "Our nation honors her sons and daughters who answered the call to defend a country they never knew and a people they never met." 19 figures stand in the Korean War Memorial. Each figure represents a different branch of the U.S. military dressed in full combat gear. When reflected in the pool, there appear to be 38 soldiers, representing the 38th parallel that divides North and South Korea.
Yes, I wondered sometimes why I was fighting the other guy, why I was trying to kill him, he was trying to kill me. We probably both had families. What we were doing there, we didn't hate each other. It was just political, you know, put in that spot. But you had to survive. You had to do what you took to survive, and I did it. I was a good soldier. I never saw one man ever back out of a firefight. They were always there, and they covered for one another. And I'm extremely proud of them. I'm extremely proud of all the men and women that served in the Korean War, and especially those 58,000 United Nations troops that didn't make it home, that we enjoy the freedoms that they sacrificed for.
About 10 months after Lou came home, he and Jeannie celebrated the birth of their son, Michael. Today, Michael and his wife, Susan, have a terrific son named Christopher, who's a really good friend of mine. The Silvas will be celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary on January 1st, 2010. They are both living examples of courage, devotion, and pure love.